All right, let's see. Hold on. I'm gonna do all this stuff. Welcome to this week's What the Heck, where we have the hunched over computer cam, Bartok, and Isaac. Not in that order. Let me just get some audio set up. Let's do some super fast introductions, which I didn't prepare at all. So, actually, do either of you want to come up with a question?
Oh, okay, I've got one. All right. So, hi, I'm Isaac. And I guess the question I'll pose is, what is everyone's favorite Eurorack effect that you have?
Oh,
Um,
yeah, that's a good one.
um, I guess I'll start by saying it's the dual looping delay for me. It's just really, really long audio buffers, which you can reverse and do all sorts of crazy shit with, and it sounds great in mono, great in stereo, and it's got a really nice clock syncing thing, so it can do really good divisions on either ear. It's just wonderful and one of my favorite modules that I have. Yeah.
The dual looping delay, that sounds rad. What about you, Bartok?
Oh, you put me on the spot.
I can go first if you want.
Yeah, I gotta look through the manuals and figure out what it's called.
Okay, I got this. I'm Hex 7, make music, and built a lot of this stuff. Anyway, my favorite effect. Ooh, I mean, the one I use the most, very heavy-handedly, is the triple splashback on this. So that's probably my favorite effect. I like that it's just sort of crappy karaoke delays, the PT2339s. But the Desmodius is growing on me. And I also like using the stutter when I can. I just always forget. So, I guess triple splashback.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, so on mine, I like the ping pong effects. I don't know what they're technically called, but especially in stereo, when you have
Yeah.
an audio to the
Yeah.
different channels. So the disting has a mode that does that, um, and I
Mm.
think that's one of my. But what's hard about it is though that it's really, and I don't know if it's because it's the disting that it's not like a default. It wasn't made for this, so it's not as audible as I'd like it to be. So sometimes it's kind of in the background, but that's my favorite effect.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I've been I've been wanting a
Is that one
disting
clock?
for a. Oh yeah, is it
Oh, go ahead.
clockable? Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, uh, I've been wanting a disting for a while because it has so many cool like modes on it that I want to play with. But also, I really don't want to have to deal with the user interface because it doesn't look like it'd be that much fun. Um,
Yeah.
So with the disting, the way I describe it is like a Swiss Army knife. So you don't pull out all the tools that you need at one time.
mhm.
You get the one that you want, and then so it's really great because then you could try that, and if you find that whatever that function is, you really like it, then you can look for a module that does that but better.
Mhm. Yeah. No. Totally.
Yeah, so it's really good, to have because then in a pinch it can act as something that you're like, well, I really wish I had this right now. Or it also gives you the ability to kind of test something that you're not sure if this would
If
work
it's worth
with your
having.
workflow. So
Yeah.
I think it's great to have.
Yeah. 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 I I recently caved and bought an Ornament and Crime, which has been my first kind of big
Okay.
multifunction module, which is
Yeah.
similar, but it's got a bigger screen. So like Hemispheres isn't really menu divey at all, which I do appreciate. But I don't know. We had this conversation last week with the screens and all that, with the whole thing.
Yeah, we have
Um,
opinions on this stuff, but today we're going to
everyone
talk
has
about
opinions on
different.
screen.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna do I don't know what to call it. We're gonna run through Isaac's case. Like case is gonna run through
Yes.
Isaac.
Oh,
Actually, in the other order, but Isaac's gonna run through their case, and we're gonna all learn some stuff here. Um,
all right.
yeah.
Hold on. Give me just 1 second.
All right. In the meantime, like that dual looping delay is definitely something that's been like on my radar. I love ping pong effects, and
Yeah.
the I just do crappy versions of it with like the Ikery, and my mixer actually has a ping pong delay, but it's not like clockable and it's kind of mediocre, but it does the trick.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and I've heard
Hello.
it in feedback.
Sorry.
Hello.
Awesome. Okay, so rig rundown. Well, the big reveal. Whoop. Okay, droid cam. Stop. Hold on. and we've got droid cam back up. Yeah, there we go. And it's flipped around the wrong way. Hold on. Give me a second. I've never used this. It is still flipped around the wrong way. Wait. Let me do it like this.
I'm gonna make Isaac big. Actually, let's try a different layout.
It is insisting on being
Maybe this
oriented
one.
the wrong way. Oh wait, I can flip it in OBS. Hold on, let's do it. Oh wait, that is oriented the right way. Okay, cool. Hi everyone.
You sound like you're in fast forward or slow mo. It sort of changes.
Oh, that's probably
Oh,
my internet.
we're back. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna make my person my face cam really small, and then
Cool.
can everyone see that all right? Looks okay to me. So, rig rundown. Well, this is the portable rig. I guess I'll get started about the case and stuff. So, this case I put together kind of recently. It's I think it's 7U and 60 HP across, and it's what I've been using kind of as well. It's what has been my travel case here in the States, and then It's also been, it's all handmade, and it's also been my live case. So when I did my first live show back in like May, and I needed a case that was like portable, and so this was that. And yeah, so it's like built into like a picnic box, powered by a Uzus, and the rails like Velcro out. So, anyways, that's the case, I guess.
Was so like what were some thoughts going into putting stuff in this case? Like, did you like Enthusiastic Electrons has like very themed cases sometimes? Was that the case here, or did you want something that was just like ultra flexible and portable?
The idea was to cram as much functionality as possible into this case. So you see a lot of really tiny modules and like compromises. So like, for instance, down in this corner, there is a Zlob dual VCA, which is really not that good of a VCA, but it's 2 channels and it has a sum output, and it's a lot smaller than my nice Dupfer 4-channel VCA. So it's one of those things where it's kind of a compromise. So I have a couple things like that. I don't have maths in here. I would put maths in here if I could have fit it in or whatever. All my envelopes are on Percol or Ornament and Crime. And yeah, so I decided to just put together like as much of my like favorite modules. So it's what I think it's lacking in is sound sources, and then like modulation. I think it's kind of a little low in this case, but maybe less of modulation, but kind of utility. But I'll just start going through it, I guess, if we want to. Should I do? I don't know. Should we do like signal path, or should we do like?
Well, before that, you mentioned it's low on sound sources. Don't you have like a handful of like pretty cool supporting synths that you can use for that?
Yes, normally.
So
yeah, so where I'm at now, the kind of supporting synths for it have been, well, I have a Behringer, like an MS1, which is like the SH clone, which is great.
Yeah.
But I've also been pairing it with an EMS Synthy, which has been really wild, really interesting. So that was the other thing actually I had in mind when making this case, is that it was supposed to interface with the Synthy nicely. So there's a lot of effects, and I've got like 2 filters and stuff, which is all just there. So it's like I can run the Synthy through like crazy Eurorack filters and vice versa. The Synthy has this. We have this thing for it. So on the front of the Synthy, it's got I'm sorry I couldn't get it here. I couldn't get it in my room, but it's got this connector called the Presto Patch connector, which used to be used kind of like the Buchla easel cards, where you could get a card that would have a preset like soldered onto it, and then you'd put it in there, and it would do a preset on the matrix. So it would like exactly set up. So it'd be like, this is guitar, this is bass synth or whatever. But there's a company that's kind of run by someone in relation to EMS or whatever now, called Digitana, that makes a thing that just takes the Presto Patch connector and breaks it out to a box that gives you Eurorack inputs and outputs for every single matrix point.
Oh, cool.
So you can plug any part of the Synthy out into here, or any part of this into the Synthy, which is really fun. Because you can put stuff through like the Spring Reverb, you can, put the Synthy through like nice clean digital effects, which sounds really good. So yeah, that's cool. Been part of this, has been like a kind of a companion case. Yeah. So I guess if I'm going, or yeah,
let's go through it. Yes.
Oh, also, please feel free to interrupt me at any point, or read questions that come from the chat, because like just stop me whenever. So if we're starting, I think I do have something. So can you guys hear that?
Oh yeah.
So if we're starting with signal path, the first thing that we have is the Telharmonic here, which is kind of the heart and soul of the system. It's a crazy three voice digital oscillator. It sounds fantastic. It's really versatile. I really like the phase modulation output.
Isaac,
Yes.
when you turn the music on, your mic got quieter. I don't know if that's
Ah, I see.
Restream doing some stuff or if
It,
something else is happening there.
I think it's Restream. Okay, so I will not talk over this then. I'll just pull it in when I need to. Okay, so yes, we've got Telharmonic going. Um, Main oscillator I use, it's the only kind of complex oscillator in here. Um, this is then going into a mixer here. We've got U3A. U3A is a 3-channel mixer, of which it's basically just a 3-channel version of the IntelliGel Quadrat, if anyone knows that. It's 3 attenuverters. So I'm actually using it for 2 things here. I'm using it for a static negative offset for, which you can see right there, for how fast my LFO is going, and then I'm using it as a 2-channel mixer here for both Telharmonic and the next voice here, which is the 2HP
Nice.
Pluck. So, lovely little voice. Rings out four voice ring out, and it's it's like it's a plucked string synth, so it's kind of like a
Hmm.
really tiny version of the mutable rings. Um, but it sounds really nice. It doesn't sound maybe quite as good, but I think it sounds okay.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
really nice sounding module.
2HP Pluck. I really want to try like the 2HP Bell and the Sign, which both also look like they sound really good for some reason, even though they're like tiny. But yeah, so this guy's here. These guys are both receiving the same pitch sequence. But yeah, mixed in U3A. Next thing in the signal path is a Pico DSP, which I'm using for reverb. This is a really nice little reverb unit. It's kind of covered, but let me see. Yeah, there you see. It's a really nice little unit because it just has some great sounding algorithms and is really small. Um, I really need to get there's an add-on to it where you can put tip top ZDSP cards into it, which I really want to get a hold of, but I have yet to buy just because it's a whole like soldering project. But
Yeah, that's a whole thing.
that
So,
that
so
is
Isaac,
doing. Oh yeah,
uh, that DSP that
mm-hmm.
has um oh, it's just one output, right? Or two? No,
it,
it's
it's so
stereo.
it's mono in, stereo out, which
Okay.
you do have to kind of be careful when you work with because like if I want to plug it into like a stereo filter or whatever, I have to do it before the filter. I can't do the filter after it, or else it'll like, um, or I have to do. Sorry, yeah, I have to do this into the filter. If I do the filter into
Yeah.
this, then I like lose stereo filter stuff. So it's kind of a little weird with how you patch it, but the reverb sounds fantastic on it. It's just like, if you listen here. So, if you hear that's kind of like ducking a little bit, that is because we have it going into the wonderful, if I can pull the cables away, wonderful Make Noise QPAS, which is, I think, my favorite module in this rack next to the dual looping delay. So, this has a VCA on the front of it, which basically VCA on the front, which I'm using with a little envelope from Percol here, which
Cool.
and then we've got the filter suite. So that is currently in a smile pass mode, which is like a phaser. Um, that it does. It's got simultaneous outputs, obviously. It's getting a stereo input from just my reverb here. And then it's getting a ton of modulation. It's got these modulate LNR, or rotate LNR parameters, which kind of let you move it around in the stereo field. I think I have my
Yeah.
stereo input enabled on Restream, so you can kind of hear real quick. And that's getting a lot of modulation. I'll get into modulation after this. So yes, we've got QPOS. QPOS is then taking its stereo output into the dual looping delay I mentioned earlier, back this way,
Yeah.
which is just going to my audio out. So this is taking what we're doing, and it's just doing really long, not ping pong delays, but they are different delay times on different ears, which gets a really nice stereo effect. So.
I can't actually tell if it's stereo or not.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it's part of the. I think my audio interface maybe compressing it a little bit, and then Restream might be.
Yeah.
Because I can't even hear the stereo very well through the. Well, that's actually because my audio interface output monitors in mono for some reason. So.
Yeah.
It's so.
No
stupid.
worries. I mean, it sounds great, and we've seen it on streams, so it's.
Yeah.
Trust you.
This exact patch, I think I streamed either yesterday or the day before. So if you want to listen to what it sounds like in a performance setting, check the logs. I think Enthusiastic Electrons was there. So we've got. That's kind of the audio path. I'm doing my voices into a mixer, that into a DSP into QPOS, which is doing both VCA duty and filter duty, or phaser duty, and then into the dual looping delay, and then, oh right, my output module here I should probably talk about. This is the wonderful Music Thing Modular Startup, which is like, kind of see it there, is like one of my favorite things ever. It's so good. It's got a 3-channel mixer with two stereo inputs and one mono input, which are all kind of like fixed levels. So there's like a quiet and a loud input. It's got a clock divider and tap LFO at the top, which has a bunch of settings in it, and then a stereo line input, which I probably should be using for my mic, but my mic is going through shale because I couldn't find a stereo mini cable. And then it's got two headphone outputs, line/headphone outputs. So, which is really good if you want to have like a headphone monitoring and then like a line out. And it's just like, it's just perfect. It's really good. And 4 HP, it just does so much shit.
What is the clock divider doing? Like what?
This clock divider here is actually just there. It's just kind of decorative. But what it does is you tap this guy and then it does a division. So you can make
it but it's just this tiny little utility in the corner of the mixer, or does it?
Yeah, basically
interplay with the mixer somehow.
Nope, it doesn't do anything with the mixer. It's just there if you need it, and it's
that's awesome.
Like kind of helpful. It's kind of helpful if you want. I wish this was a tap. We should have like a tap input, though. There's not really room, but I wish you could use it like an external clock divider, because I like to clock things from the master clock here. Something I mentioned about the dual looping delay that's actually really cool is that if you know the quad clock distributor from 4MS, the dual looping delay just has two channels of that at its top. So it's got a ping input, it's got these divide switches to do either a divide by 8 or an add 16, and then it's got these nice digital like things that like snap exactly to like 8 or 10 or 4 divisions or whatever. And so even if you're not using the delay part, this is a super robust 2-channel clock divider with clock in, clock out, ping in, like all that stuff. And so it makes a really good master clock.
That's cool.
Totally love it. If we're going into modulation, that's actually a good segue. Clock modulation, we've got a clock divider back here. This is the Dupfer A160-2. It's got one clock input, and then it has 8 outputs that you can change between being like 1 through 8, or 2 through 128, and or like you can make them be prime number divisions. So it can be like 1, 3, 5, 7, 11 and all that, which gets really wacky.
Yeah.
And this is just doing like various modulation duties around. So it's like flipping the reverse. You can see these reverse things are going, and those are going in a rhythmic kind of phasing thing because it's like the 7 and the 6th clock divisions, and then the
Yeah.
8's triggering an envelope. Sorry. What were you saying?
I didn't say anything. You're doing good.
Sorry. But yeah, no. So clock divider is really nice to have. This is great just because you can. It's I love it because you can just take a little bit of modulation in and get a lot of modulation out. Even if it's just clocks, you can set it to be like trigger pulses. If you can see that, just like little short, little blips, full size gates, which will be like a toggle on off, or you can do like CST, which is like when it's on and then it just like it's like an inverse clock basically. Um, I find this gate mode is really helpful because you can use it to make really slow changes if you have it in like one of the slower modes. So you can have something that's just like doot, 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 which can like trigger an envelope or like open up a filter or even change the pitch of an oscillator. I've used it to transpose things. You can be really careful about tuning, and you can use it almost like a weird sequencer. But really helpful.
I've noticed like
This,
on this case, like just to interrupt a second, like you've got a lot of stuff that lends itself to I don't know if it's the right word, but like pingish sounds, like the pluck. Like you have a lot of stuff, including your envelopes, that are very like plucky in general. So that like you have a lot of these sounds that can be very plucky and bounce around a bit, which is pretty cool. I should do more.
yeah,
of
that's something I really like. QPOS is a really pingable filter, and I have a lot of things that really respond well to having a lot of gate signals into them, and so it's kind of built around the fact that like you can ping things. There's a lot of clock sources. Obviously, there's this guy. There's this guy. Turing Machine makes a lot of like stepped kind of modulation. Clocks here, and then Percol is obviously. I guess I can get into that next because it's receiving clocks from here. Percol is doing a lot of modulation, but it does only decay envelopes. So it's something you got to work with, but is actually a lot of fun. I like how performable it is because these sliders are the best thing ever. Whoever came up with putting these sliders here needs a raise at Bifaka. They're awesome. And it also is 4 VCAs. This thing is insane. It's 4 VCAs. Oh, that was my mixer doing something. Or my dual looping delay. Sometimes it does that. It's got like sometimes it's just like it's a really long delay, and so when you have really long delay time, sometimes it will just like remember something it heard like 3 minutes ago and will just like shoot it back into the buffer. It's so much fun. But no, these are great. You can CV control the envelope time, which is really helpful. You can tap every individual envelope. You can use it as 4 VCAs that you can individually tap as well, and it's got like a level on each VCA. So it just does so much stuff. I've used it even. You can self patch it. You could like use one of these envelopes to through a VCA to like modulate the other envelope, which can get kind of wacky. But
I mean, it's like the
great.
ultimate module for like plucky sounds. Like whether you have plucky sound sources or not doesn't really matter because you get these really nice snappy envelopes, or you could do some long ones. But also the fact that it's got VCAs, like that's clutch in my opinion.
It's really nice having 4 VCAs and 4 envelopes, especially in such a small package. It's 12 HP. It's like it's a no-brainer. And I did the kit for this one. It has like the most dense through-hole build I have ever seen in my life. It's amazing. Like,
well, it's 4 envelopes and 4 VCAs, right? Like,
yeah, but they did it in a way that requires extra parts because they didn't use a quad VCA chip. They used like 2 dual VCA, like Alpha Raspberry VCA chips for some reason. And so it's just got like this massive amount of VCA circuitry and then all the stuff to CV control it. It's actually 5 VCAs because there's a master strength thing I kind of never use, but it's there. So you can like do the entire loudness of the whole thing, which is kind of cool. And it's got these chokes, which are really nice too. So if you have hi-hats, you can like choke a hi-hat against an open versus a close, or you can have like kind of use it like ducking. So you can have like a bass line and then you can have a kick drum, and you can have the bass line duck out of or like stop when the kick drum hits. which is kind of cool.
Yes. Yeah.
It can be interesting to use, but I just really appreciate it as a utility. It's a fun utility, no menus, all analog, very nice. And that's doing a couple things here. It's doing the turn down the delay real quick.
That's such a cool sound though.
So you can hear it's kind of like gating the pluck in, which sounds really good because the pluck's really like low. And you can hear it kind of opening up like that. It's getting input from the clock generator, so it's like, so it's kind of getting itself opened up a little more, which kind of gets this really nice rhythmic thing going. So it's like da 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 da, you know.
Yeah, the gate's huge. Like even if you're not gating it against another like sound or something, like I think it's pretty fun. Like I was playing with that with the Javelin when I first got it because it also has a gate on the VCA, which is like that instant stop, like you said, opens things up.
Yeah, definitely. It's just nice having the one thing I wish I had more of in here, even though I already have 5 attenuators, is more attenuators. Because one thing that's nice to have with a gate is if you put a gate into an attenuator, you can like kind of trim its response for things like CV controlling an envelope or whatever. Here I just I'm using every single one of them, so I don't really have the room for that. If this case was like 104 HP, it definitely would have math, because then you have like 4 more attenuators to use. Or maybe even replacing this with a quadrat if I ever got that.
I mean,
have you considered trying like some of those 0 HP
Those are actually interesting. I've been considering getting a few of those because that seems like it would be a really handy utility to have, doing like the out of rack ones. I like patching everything. I don't know. I feel like I might get annoyed with them just because they aren't in the rack, but
right.
I could learn to use it. You know, like having them like floating around. Like, shit, I gotta find my thing, and you're like digging through everything. Could be annoying, but like I mean, if it's extra functionality.
I've got some that I bookmarked I'll share later that are pretty beautiful looking, but I always have beefs with some of the designs of the 0 HP ones because they're doing it in like a cost effective way, which means like the sockets and the potentiometer are all facing the same direction, so it's like 2 cables like really coming out and then the potentiometers in between them.
It's like the least comfortable way to do it, even though you have like 3 dimensions, you know. Yeah, I've seen ones that kind of go side to side and then up, which seems nice, but
I know there's like size limitations with Eurorack, but I feel like there's not enough, like even just attenuators. It doesn't even have to attenuate most of the time. Like I feel like there's not enough attenuators on the modules themselves. So like I ended up with I think 3 of the noise engineering. What is that thing called? I think it's the Sync to Faro, and it's essentially a mult that has four attenuators, and I have 3 of those, and they're like all packed. Like, plus that, like I never have enough.
Yeah, it's always nice to have like attenuators on, because there's a lot of things that just people don't put attenuators on, even though it would be really nice to have them. I've actually this rig is okay about having them on. Like I have a lot of things like QPOS has an attenuverter on every single knob input, which I really appreciate. So there's an attenuverter on the resonance, even like the Q, like that's which you really don't see very often. Polaris.
I mean, say what you will about.
Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say also, Polaris has. This is a control that I literally, this knob. I think I had this module for 3 years or something before I figured out what this knob did, because I just never touched it, and apparently it is an attenuator for the Q input, the resonance CV, which is like weirdly helpful sometimes, but
that's cool.
It's not labeled well.
Yeah, I think Mass does it.
But
I mean, not Mass. Make Noise does a good job with their mod. Like their modules are designed to work together, and they've got their shared system. So they've got sort of like molting and spreading signals around their system, sort of like pretty well handled. So they've got attenuators on most of their stuff in nice places.
yeah, they have attenuators on a lot of inputs, not really like
Yeah.
outputs per se. But I
No.
appreciate that because
Yeah.
you know, it's good if you want to spread like a signal out and you want it to like affect things in a different way. It's better to
Yeah.
have it so it's unattenuated or attenuated on the output, and then you just do it upon signal inputs on stuff.
Right. I mean, I like to do that with envelopes like crazy. I like to split that into 3 or 4 sometimes.
Yeah, no, totally. I have this beautiful little buffered mult which isn't patched right now, but does clock and pitch CV duty pretty often.
Oh, perfect.
Um,
Perfect.
Yeah, and then my attenuator is in here, so it's obviously U3A, and then I've got my own module Shale here, which is totally full, um, which is just big envelopes and attenuators, and they're kind of positioned in a way that are comfortable to me. So it's got like your things here, and then they're just right here, which I like. I like this a lot because you can grab it from the top and just yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I think that's doing something. Oh yeah. Let's get into the sequencing because the sequencing in this rack is really interesting. So,
Yeah. Like where, like if I was, I don't know if I hadn't looked up some of these modules a little more in depth, I'd be like, "Where's your sequencer, Isaac?"
yes, so my sequencer is down in the corner here. We have got 3 modules handling sequencing, and everything is patched into them, so you can't quite see them that well. But first thing is one of my newer acquisitions. These are all new acquisitions, so I'm kind of experimenting with this. So firstly, we have a good old Turing machine. It's actually got an alternate panel that a friend of mine did, and so yeah, this guy is taking master clock in, or actually, sorry, it's not taking master clock in. I'll get into that in a second.
Wait,
And
why
it's
does
just a
that
really
Turing machine
cool-
look so awesome? Like that looks
Yeah, so
super cool.
it's a friend of mine. This guy, Tom Carlson. I think he does divergent waves on Bonk. He has like a logic module out, but he does all his own panels for stuff, and so he offered to
Oh,
send
cool.
me his Turing machine panels, and so I've got this really lovely like all black panel. It looks super sleek.
Oh yeah.
And then it's got all these like little symbols on stuff instead of the labels, which I like.
Yeah, that's like Knight Rider the panel.
Yeah, no, totally, totally. So yeah, this guy, random sequencer. I mean, a lot of you probably have one or have a derivative of one in something where you get a clock in, you get a random sequence out, and then you can lock them by just going over to the left or the right. You can write data manually into the buffer, which is really cool, and then you can change the length on the fly, and it's got an attenuator on the output. So it's doing quite a couple things, and then it's also got the volts expander, which is actually what is the main pitch sequencing here, which basically takes the Turing machine outputs and gives you like a slightly more control. It gives you 5 knobs that you can use for like a kind of more conventional step sequencer that's still a little random. And then the last part of this puzzle, which I should probably go this way, is the Ornament and Crime, which is my latest acquisition, and I love to death. It's really nice. Also, cool panel. It's a Magpie panel, so the whole thing is like sleek back. Actually, you'll notice it's all black panels on this one, and then all white panels on the top.
I did notice that.
Which is kind of nice little divide, which I like. Ideally, it'll be all blue in the middle sometime, but
Soon.
yes, Ornament and Crime is doing 2 things here. It's got it's hemispheres, so it's running one thing in one half and one thing in the other half. In the left half, it has a program called Squanch. Squanch is a dual quantizer, but the difference between it and the normal dual quantizer is you can have one CV input, and then it will let you get 2 outputs based on that are quantized, but you can transpose them differently. So like one of these pitch sequences, one half of Squanch is going to telharmonic and the other half is going to pluck. And so if I want to, I can use this to transpose them apart. So I can make like pluck a 5th up, or telharmonic a 3rd down or something, and I can play with the intervals on that. And then it's just going to a major pentatonic. Is my favorite scale to use. So
Cool.
that's doing that on that half, and then on the right half, it's got TrigSeq 16. It's really difficult to see this because it's really tiny. Let's see. see the zoom in on Ornament Crime so we can get a better idea of what it's doing. Am I able to? Oh, I can, kind of. Zooming in on the tiny little screen. Oh, and it's still upside down. Hold on. Come on, you. There we go. Okay. But I'm gonna flip it in OBS real quick. Hold on. Let's just flip it. Trade cam right. Transform, please. Flip vertical. And I need to flip it horizontally too. Flip horizontal. There you go. All right, so you can get a better idea of what this is doing. So, you can see this guy going around. Just to go and transpose.
Yeah, hold on a sec. The audio went super choppy when you did those transforms.
Oh dear. Okay. Let's Got a little better there. Hopefully you could hear that. This guy goes up a fifth. So you have that transpose input, which is really, really nice. And you can do that independently on each channel. And I like the interface is really easy. You just click this and it'll just go between them. You can see the entire thing vibrate whenever I click this down. So yeah, you've got dual quantization on here, and then you've got Trig 16. This is a 16-step trigger sequencer, gate sequencer, and so what you do is you actually like browse through it, and it will change them in like binary. So like you can change the hits, and you can just do that for every quarter of it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's like a binary counter, so if you just keep scrolling,
Yeah, so
it'll eventually all light up.
Yeah, exactly. So they're all off, and then just 1, 2.
It's really nerdy and really cool.
It's very fun. But this is doing that main like gated sequence. So that's like gives you a nice little rhythmic pattern. And additionally, it's clocking the Turing machine advancing. So because the volt is based on the Turing machine and it's doing that, the entire sequence pattern advances with this sequencer. So it's good for like really big changes really quickly. If I wanted to just like okay, I want to change up the rhythm of the entire patch, it's all controlled right here. Which is just awesome. I mean, they make there's a dual channel version of this that's like 2 8-step, but the 16-step is just nice for this. It's also got an inverted version of the output, which I'm using for modulation additionally elsewhere. I'm going to zoom back out so you can see the rest of the case, and hopefully I won't have to flip things again. It does flip things again, hooray. But yeah, so that's kind of the sequencing section. It's like pseudo-random sequencing, and it's optimized for quick changes on the fly. So if I want to change up how this whole thing is sounding really, really quickly, I just can. I'm going to put this a little more this way. That's better. Yeah, so it's made so like I can just in a performance setting change everything really quickly. I actually didn't use the same configuration when I played live recently. It was
So when you say change everything really quickly, are you talking about like leaving the patch pretty much in place and just like fiddling with settings, right? Like,
yeah, basically this patch is really nice because you can make it sound wildly different without unpatching anything. Just because you can change the entire melody of both lines and the entire rhythm of the patch just from the sequencer, like really like that, which is something that's really appealing to me. When I played live recently, I didn't have any of this stuff. I was using just a Make Noise Renee, which is similarly really good at that, because what you can do with Renee is it's got the touch plate, so you can like hold down progressions that you want to do, or just like change all the knobs really quickly, and then it's a different thing, you know. So it's a little different way of doing it, and I bet it would be fun in tandem with this also if I had the room. But yeah, basically just like quick changes on the fly is one of my.
Can either of
nice
those
things about
save
this.
those changes, or it's
No, that is the other thing. It's very ephemeral in that you can't really. I think you can maybe save states on the Ornament and Crime, but I haven't figured out how to do it yet. And the Turing machine is all like
Ooh.
it's like digital logic, but it doesn't have preset saving or anything. So
okay?
you can't repeat anything here, which I'm okay with because that's sort of how I patch. Is I don't get too caught up in having like an exact set. Like, okay, I'm gonna play this song. Like, it's more like, okay, we're gonna mess with this patch. You know, the patch is the song.
I mean, the Turing machine, I feel like is totally livable because even if you're not getting the same thing, you can get something quickly that you could then perform with and improvise with a little bit, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the Ornament and Crime, like, I just want modules to save their state. I don't want to like turn on my Eurorack and like I don't even want to open settings and like recently just save.
Yeah,
Power
I'm
off,
not
turn it on
sure.
the same state.
I have a feeling it does have something in Hemispheres to save states. I just have not figured out how to use it yet. I
Yeah.
do appreciate a lot of what Hemispheres does because it's not menu divey at all. That's my favorite thing. If you want to change one of these, you just like click this button and then bam, it's a different applet. You know, like it's really easy to do that. So like I don't have too much of a pain.
Oh,
It's not
cool.
like I have to like menu dive for 10 minutes. I just have to like scroll to find the one I like and then just set it and forget it basically.
Archaic Electro
It's
is saying in the chat that Ornament and Crime can save state, so it's
Okay,
there
so
somewhere.
I just need to figure it out. Oh yeah, Enthusiastic Electron is mentioning his Ornament and Crime. You're gonna love it, man. As soon as when you get it done. But
and
yeah,
CK
so
is saying, Ornament and Crime can be 4 Turing machines, but
it
you can also,
yes.
I mean, isn't 5 Turing machines better than 4? I guess is
Exactly.
much,
Yes, it's got like Enigma, I think is what it's called. It can do all
Yeah.
the Turing machine stuff. The
Oh,
reason
that's a
that
good name.
I haven't removed the Turing machine. I actually bought Ornament and Crime specifically as a quantizer for the Turing machine because I got it and was immediately like, I am in love with this module and I need to have a quantizer for it because I don't have a quantizer otherwise. But the reason that I don't use just Enigma is because it is a little menu divey because like when it's something simple like just like a quantizer or like an envelope generator or something where I don't need to like necessarily I can go through it a little slower or I can at least CV control it externally, it's okay. But with the Turing machine, it's like I love having this length knob thing. It's really nice to perform. The giant knob in the middle that you can just like lock and change is awesome. And then this right switch, it's like every single control on the Turing machine is extremely performable and it's really really nice. And so I really appreciate it that it's the size that it is, it's spaced out the way it is, it's got the display the way it is. It's great. So I don't think I played a little bit with the like Enigma and Enigma Junior, which is cool, but I should watch Synth Dad's video. CK, I'll take a look at those.
But I think what you're saying is pretty important. If you're doing this for performances, you want something that you can easily get in there and make adjustments.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If I was doing a really long like a really long like ambient live set, or if I was like streaming hold music or something, I would consider maybe doing that just so I have like a lot of sequencing going on. But that's the only time I can really see myself using Ornament and Crime in that way. I like having this. I have PCBs and panels for the other Turing Machine expander as well, which would be really fun in this case if I can figure something else to sacrifice for it. But you know, it's just like I like the intuitive kind of non-digital sequencing aspect of it. I'm trying to think of what else. So there's a couple things I haven't talked about in this case yet. One thing is the Turing Machine's gate output is absolutely the best thing ever and comes in handy a lot. That is hooked up to here, which I think was doing a ping to the filter. So that sounds like this. And the QPOS, I should note, is obvious. If you can kind of hear it, it's getting step modulation from the Turing machine, and then also from the... Oh, it's also getting noise. The Turing machine is a really nice sounding noise source as well, which makes great for modulation. So the Turing machine and the QPOS work really nicely together. So you So lots of like, I mean, you mentioned ping ePlux and all that, but QPOS has these additional ping inputs which respond really nicely to just getting random gates, which is from the clock divider or whatever. Last things I wanted to mention, there's a kick patched up in here as well. There's a kick drum going. So I've got, the only things I haven't talked about yet is there's the radio music up here. Sometimes it's a chord organ, sometimes it's a radio music. It's always awesome. It's doing a kick sample. I've got the IntelliGel Polaris when I want a more like reasonable, like kind of more conventional filter, which sounds great. And then the last thing up here is this 2HP oscillator, which is actually acting like an LFO right now, but I do sometimes use as a voice because it's really nice. I love my little 2HP oscillator. But this kick, if I can hear it, I think it might just come in. Oh, it's really low. Hold on. I might have to unplatch my voice for a second.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that like a conventional kick sound by any means, but it's a really cool, like it's definitely what you need for a kick. It'll sound really good on big speakers.
It's just like a nice little, like it's a heartbeat, you know, it's like a thunky little pulse, which is sort of nice to kind of put over everything else to keep it more like rhythmically sort of together, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and it goes really well with the plucky sounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's just like it's kind of got the high filter, the high resonance on it. Kind of gives you like a little that like, which is nice.
Yeah,
I think kicks.
Did you say that you were using radio music for that? You have a sample of that?
Yes. So actually, I have a sample, and the sample is then going into the filter, and the filter is being modulated by Percol, and it's going through a VCA on here. So it's so it's sample, Polaris, and then VCA/envelope. So I can make it really like choppy and small, or I can make it longer and kind of, you know, like the disco tom thing sound. And then I guess I could also use a different sample. When I played with this live, I was using radio music for like longer samples. Like I think I had some bird song or some like like rain noises or something on it, where it's just like, you know, really nice to have out there.
You can put like any sample on there. Like you could put like a 10-minute track on there, right? Like,
yeah. It's the other thing I use it for is I have Carl Sagan's Pale Blue Dot like monologue on here, which I will sometimes just run through a VCA and chop up and then like put kind of in the background, so you sort of hear like Carl Sagan whispers in the back of your track, which is fun.
Does radio music have I'm not super familiar with it other than like the high level concept of it. Does it have the ability to change the start point via CV?
So yes, it does actually. It's got a station which changes what sample it's playing, and then it's got start, which changes when it starts. So that's really good to use with, I mean, really long vocal samples, and it's got CV inputs for both of those.
Right, so you could take like the entirety of Pale Blue Dot and like
and then just like pan around with it with Turing Machine,
randomly change the start point. That's pretty cool.
Which is fun, yeah. This can also be in the config. You can remap it to be a pitch control, and then you can use that to repitch and play samples at 1 volt per octave, which lets you use it as kind of a janky little voice, which is also fun. I think it sounds really good also when it's in chord organ mode. I think actually I've used it a lot as a chord organ. I really like chord machines, as you can tell. And so chord organ has some really nice like wave shapes.
So when it's in chord organ mode, is that like a switch you flip and then it changes its functionality, or do you like have to flash it or something?
I have to pull it out and I have to reflash the teensy.
Okay. Okay.
Which isn't the worst thing ever. I actually, when I was building it, they recommend you cut the teensy trace. I did not, so I actually can pull it out of the socket and like leave the module there, and then just like take the teensy back to my computer, which is
Okay.
very
Yeah.
nice. If you're building a radio music, hot tip: do not cut the power trace on the teensy, because otherwise you'll need to have it. So like on the Ornament and Crime, because of how had to be soldered because of this weird pogo pin thing, which you don't necessarily
Yeah.
have to do, but I did. If I want to reflash Ornament and Crime to like, you know, like the default firmware or like one of the other ones, I have to keep it powered on and then plug it in and like pull it out of my rack. I've actually been looking into, there are some things they make where you can get like either USB extenders that bring the USB port to the front, because you can use it as a really robust MIDI CV interface.
Yeah.
You can do that.
I've
or there's
noticed-
a really cool. Or I was just saying,
Oh, go
Plum
ahead.
Audio makes a thing so you can plug it straight into the IntelliGel, the palette MIDI USB, which is nice as well.
It's cool.
But yeah, go on.
I think you have to be a little careful with that because some of the modules won't handle like case power plus USB power at the same time. But that'll say on the specific module, but that would be really nice. I won't, we've talked about this before. But pogo pins gave me like instant nightmare flashback, because the last project I did with pogo pins was like a year or two ago, and it was like straight up soldering individual pogo pins onto like the teeny tiniest little PCB I've ever soldered. That essentially was a programmer for another ultra tiny USB thing. A little demon seed hacker thing my partner wanted to try out. So it was like you build this pogo programmer to then program this even smaller thing that fits inside like a USB housing.
Oh, that's so cool.
Super tiny.
Pogo pins. Yeah, no, that was the weirdest part of this build, was like getting the pogo pin in, because it has to be really straight and it has to get on there right. It's just an optional thing. It has something to do with like the teensy on power up, because like if
And
you
it's like
reset
hard
the
to
teensy
hold
on
them
power
because
up,
like the whole anyway.
so small. It's just so tiny.
And they heat up, right? Like so you have to use like pliers or a helping hand or something, right?
The weird thing is though, Ornament and Crime and these are both teensy based modules, and this one does not have a pogo pin and it's never given me issues on startup. And this one does have a pogo pin, but it's also not giving me issues on startup. So I probably didn't need it, and now I can't pull my my fucking teensy out of it because I had to solder it directly to the board, which is annoying. So I would, if I was more patient and I ordered the right socket, because I think Marty on the Discord has figured out how to have both a socketed thing and the pogo pin. But
oh, nice.
I was impatient. I just wanted my Ornament and Crime.
Yeah,
it's fine.
I do janky sockets for everything. Like I have like everything socket.
The one thing I regret is because there's an alternate firmware on Ornament and Crime called Squares and Circles, which gives you like 4 full voices out of it for somehow.
Oh, cool.
4 full voices out of it, but you have to use a 4.0 teensy, and it's got a 3.2 in it right now, so it will never run it because it's not.
That's all right.
Enough. But it's okay. I'll just get another one. No.
Yeah.
I could totally imagine having 2 of these though, just because of hemispheres. So you could have just like 4, because it's so helpful to have like a random, like as Bartok said earlier about the disting. Sometimes you just need like a comparator or something, whatever. But yes, I think though that concludes the rig rundown. I mean, the only other things I have active are the 2 HP VCA. I've got the line input is doing my voice right now, and I think that's all. Yeah.
I don't know why
questions?
Enthusiastic Electrons just yelled 9 Turing machines.
9 Turing machines. Yeah. Because if you have extra Ornament and Crimes, you could just have 9 Turing
This is
machines.
Turing machine only pouch.
Yeah, it's like if you've ever seen the meme of like do you guys like my new Eurorack? And it's like 6 maths and like 4 clouds and 4 rings.
Yeah.
Which I've always wondered would probably be really fun to mess with. Like I bet that would be a really weird, fun case. But
you
yeah.
definitely have to like VCA the crap out of all those. Like it's
Oh
too many
yeah.
clouds to do like the clouds reverb thing on everything.
Oh yeah.
Maybe
No, for
not. I
sure.
don't know. Someone do it.
Maths can be a really crappy VCA. um, no, like nine Turing machines. I know Mylar Melodies had a video recently talking about modulation, and he had I think 4 full size Turing machines in that rack. Um, the idea there was he built a
Yeah.
rack that was the BIA and then just modulation,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is kind of fun.
I've seen like I think that's a really funny module in that it does lend itself to be like modulated per step even. And so I've seen like full of videos that have that same theme. It's so cool.
Yeah. Uh, Forsey mentions the Turing machine can't clock itself, but if it is a Turing machine that is on the Ornament and Crime, it can clock itself because the Ornament and Crime has an internal clock source, which is a
So
pain
you
in the ass
could,
to use, but it does have it.
and then you can send output gates from other Turing machines into
Yeah,
each
exactly.
other.
Clock Turing machines with Turing machines.
Yeah.
Meta Turing machine. It'd be fun if you had those really tiny cables and you just had them patched like over, so it looked like the back of one of those server racks, where it's just like Ethernet cables.
That's funny.
Um,
Yeah. Um, what else? I don't have any more questions for it. Like it feels like a rack that
yeah,
could easily do a techno set for 2 hours or an ambient set. Probably even like transition nicely between the two if you wanted to.
yeah, that's really. I mean, the only thing it's really missing for a techno set is like a robust drum
Drums. Yeah.
source. But if you pair it with like a drum machine, I think this would play really nicely. So if I had a drum machine, which I don't, but one thing I could do is I have a Norns and I have a Keystep Pro, and that is a drum machine. If I combine the two of
Yeah.
those, and I can run them together, and then I can have like better CV control over this. That can be a
So when
pretty
you say
nice
a
techno
drum machine
record.
source, you're talking about like the sequencing, right?
Both the sequencing and the voices. Like radio
Okay.
music can make one drum sound, and I can synthesize a couple of them. Like I
Yeah.
can synthesize hi hats with either Telharmonic or like Turing Machine's noise, but
Yeah.
that's just kick and hi hats. Like you need a little more if you want to make like an interesting set.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
if it's ambient, just a kick's okay. But
I mean, I think
you
you've
need a
got the
little more,
pieces
in my
there, right?
opinion.
Like you've got a noise source
Yeah.
out of Turing Machine, right? Like, and you've got, and you could also split
Mhm.
that and send it to another thing. So you could have a hat, a snare, and a kick, and that's like,
Yeah, Percol's
Most
okay
people-
for that.
yeah,
Yeah.
But then you're taking what it's doing away from something else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
every time I use like an oscillator for a drum, that's one less oscillator I have for a voice, and because
Right.
it's like kind of small, I don't have like that many. So like, the other thing I have that I'm kind of particular about, and the reason I wish Maths was in here, my one complaint about Percol is that these are I think linear envelopes. They're not exponential, and so they're not
Oh.
sufficiently snappy. So it's actually
That's
Ornament and Crime actually has kind of some snappier. Like I can use the ADSR, and it can be 4 ADSRs. So I would actually probably do that if I was using drums. But the envelopes on here are not that snappy. So like for like my kick drum transients, I like a really sharp exponential envelope on the kick drum to get kind of that like that nice little high click on it, and then sort of a lower whatever. And I think Percol just makes these kind of like rubbery, like mushy sounding kick drums, which I don't like. It's okay for hi hats, but I wish everything was exponential envelopes. If Bafako ever sees this, please make a version of this that has just like really exponential envelopes. I'll pay money. I'll buy it right now.
Yeah, Percol extra crispy or something. Like it
Yeah,
it makes a huge
exactly.
difference. Like you want that really sharp transient on like pitch or filter or whatever you're using for that transient.
Yeah,
That's
it's just
okay.
it's really nice, and I think Ornament and Crime is better about it. But then I have to use that. It's not pre-routed to the VCA or anything. I have to use another VCA.
Yeah.
The other improvement I might have here is this VCA plus startup. There is a Modbap makes a module called the Transit, I think, which does something very similar to this, and that's got like a headphone output, and then it's like two stereo ins, but it has the VCAs built in and can act as like a sidechain duck, which I really like because this VCA is almost exclusively set up as a stereo sidechaining, like ducking thing. So that might be another improvement down the line, I guess, is change my end of my mixing.
Yeah, I've been playing with that a little bit recently. I don't know if I save that for a future episode to talk about, but I need to rework my ducking too.
Yeah.
Uh,
This guy's really good for setting up ducking because you can have like the offset and then like pull it down.
yeah,
But
yeah,
and I would like to use Ornament and Crime because Ornament and Crime has an envelope follower ducking mode,
mhm.
but it's awful because it doesn't let you. In my opinion, it's not very good because it just doesn't let you trim it. It's always like way too slow, and you can't trim the response time at all, which
Yeah. I
is
mean, I've done the like, I worked with like, I've tried a few different ducking things, and I don't actually like the audio into audio like envelope follower like at all.
yeah. No,
I'd
I
rather
like
send
using
like a
just an envelope.
specific gate. Yeah, and not even the drum gate, like a specific gate for ducking. Like
Hmm.
sometimes you want a lot more kick drums than you want ducking. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's an advantage of modular too, is because like the reason that you have an envelope follower is normally like if you were in like a studio like mixing whatever non-modular stuff,
Yeah,
you'd want to
yeah,
tap the output of your kick drum and send it to an envelope follower and do all that shit. But
yeah,
in modular you can just take that trigger and send it to a thing to send it up, set it up way easier. So I think it's an
yeah.
advantage of modular.
I was gonna set up the muscle, the WMD muscle for that. Um,
Hmm.
was like the whole intention of me getting it was for sidechain. It turns out I actually liked it better end of chain, just as a sort
Yeah,
of general compressor.
I've been looking
Womp
at the
womp.
muscle for that. Seems like it'd be fun.
That's why you
I
get
find
two.
this. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
I should have got two, but you know what? It's fine. It'll be good for now.
Um, yeah, I mean, I find I have a compressor. I have a that lollipop at home, which I
Hmm.
use the shit out of, but I don't use it for sidechaining like that much. Most of the time, I set up a sidechain manually, just because I feel like I don't need the attack release stuff is kind of, I feel like, better if you're just like you have like a whole mix because it's got the envelope follower built in and it does all that.
Yeah,
um
yeah,
so
I
I
agree
tend
with
to set
you.
up sidechains manually. I have this that Dupfer mixer has that kind of bus that goes all the way down, which is nice because it like you can just like send one input to it and it will like duck everything that's going into it because it normalizes CV down the line, kind of like a Veils or whatever. So that's really helpful for just if I want to duck everything. Cosmic's Messor is better for end of chain. I've been looking at the Messor as well, CK, and it also looks like a lot of fun because it's like stereo in and has like more controls than the Muscle does.
Yeah, I mean, what I would like really is I want the like I would love the Messor plus like a DJ filter. I don't even think the DJ filter needs to have
Yeah,
CV controls. Like
just
I have
like
the overseer and the muscle, and the overseer is pretty cool, but I don't. Um, I'm probably not going to use the CV stuff all that much because it is pretty much end of
yeah.
chain, and so I'd rather just like a couple of utilities mashed into one in a pretty small footprint. Doesn't take much.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
QPOS
and the
is a
muscle,
fun
I
DJ
agree with you,
filter
is probably better
sometimes.
for one. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ideally, I want to send like a handful of specific channels via the send return to be
Mm-hmm.
sidechained at some point. So like probably like bass channels ish, pretty much, maybe reverb. But
Chords are
that's
nice.
another
Yeah.
problem for another day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, but yeah. Uh, yes, this rig rundown, it's been fun. I'm happy with how that turned out, honestly. Um, but yes, uh, and if anyone has any more questions, feel free to ask, or I can go back to the more. I can move my little face around. um,
I don't know. Who has the rooster in the background? I don't think that's me.
That's me. That's me. That's our rooster.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
Yes. His name is Mozzarella, and we have backyard chickens, and they are just very loud.
Mozzarella the rooster.
Yes. One more thing I can mention about this case.
Oh yeah.
Very final thing is the power. I'm using a Uzus, and well, the power is extremely messy in the back here, but also I have this the Uzus boost thing, because a normal Uzus does not have enough power capacity to power this entire case. So if you want to use this many modules with the thing, you have to get the beefier boost or use a better power supply.
Yeah. Power supplies are never perfect.
Never perfect. This one's really noisy too. There's a lot of, sometimes I'll like hear an oscillator and like that's just like it going if I don't have it plugged in, which is always like weird. So yeah.
Like, I mean, I was like, so when you mentioned that on I think, I don't know if it's radio music or whatever, they suggested you cut the trace. I imagine that was probably to reduce noise, but if your case is already noisy, who cares? Like,
yeah, it's a noisy case, but I modulate a lot of stuff with noise. Like I'll plug noise into stuff and intentionally make it noisier, so I'm not too fussed about it. And I'll probably be using a lot of noise with beads when that comes in, hopefully later today or tomorrow.
I get driven a little bit crazy by noise in my case. Like when I had my old power supplies, they were super noisy because they were underpowered for the amount of modules they were powering. That also causes noise, but I didn't notice it as much. But now I'm like, if I turn the volume way up and like I don't have anything in specific playing, I'll hear like the Mega Drone and the Icary, or comes out pretty hot with the Castor and Pollux. See that? So you can still hear like traces of them. Because the mixers they're going into don't go all the way to silent, or the VCAs are into.
This VCA is really loud and bleeds so much, and it's my least thing about it. It will never go all the way silent, and I hate it.
And that's the same. And I think it's okay. I just remember, like, you know, if I'm starting a performance or something, I'll have those things sort of flipped off until I get to them. It doesn't really matter. I don't think my streams are like, I think there's enough noise, it doesn't matter.
No.
Yeah, anyway, that was a really good, I think that's the first case rundown that we've had ever on What the Heck, and that was awesome. Like, it's a really powerful little case.
Yes, thank you. I'm really happy with how it's coming out, and I'd like to kind of mess with it more. It could maybe be a bit bigger, but you know, it's nice. It's the
lunchbox case. It's cool.
It can be carried on an
airplane. It's a really good size, and it's impressive what you've done to get so much out of that little case. So really well done.
Mozzarella is just the name for the noise in the case.
Yes,
there is no rooster.
I have like a rooster crows. That's what the big honking button's better for, as a sample player. Animal sounds.
For sure. All right. Since you're like set up for it, did you want to like play us out or anything? Or actually, does anybody have any more questions before we shut this down? Let's see. Super fast question time. Do you miss any modules from that you left?
Yes, I miss Castor and Pollux.
Other than Math,
so much. And Castor and Pollux, I really wish was in here. I have to pick between Castor and Pollux and Telharmonic because they're the same size, but like I really wish it was there. I'm probably gonna miss Polaris because I'm gonna have to take it out for beads when I put that in, or something, which will be sad. And then I do miss Renee as well. I like having the manual sequencing, but Renee is just so big.
Renee's pretty cool.
Yes.
We only have one question. It's from CK. You can answer it or not. Up to you.
CK, the answer to that one is when two oscillators love each other very much. No.
Oh my gosh, Bartok, that's the perfect answer.
By putting clouds in the rings. I will finally be able to do my discount clouds and rings because I'll have beads and pluck, and so I'll finally be able to be a real modular guy. Because I've never had a clouds.
That's why I don't have a clouds or a rings.
Oh, there you go. You
I
can't.
don't have either, but it's just, I don't know. I'm not
Point
big
me.
on walls of sound other than the Mega Drone.
Yeah. And the walls of sound has to be literal walls.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Actually, yes.
One more totally off-topic thing I wanted to point out is, Bartok, I noticed you've got the pink Lequelic Iteritas in the background. And I just wanted to say that's awesome, and I love it.
I also want to throw out there that because of those pink Loquelics, if you're into a Loquelic and the pink one isn't your jam, a lot of black panel ones are about to go for sale.
Definitely.
I'm actually going to try to sell my version 1 that I have, and that's the one. It doesn't have the sync input. Yeah, the current ones do, but this one was.
I'll trade you for an MS-22. Just kidding. I'm just going to give you your MS-22 back in a couple of weeks.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, it's awesome. It looks like a fun oscillator too.
Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right, we've
Yes,
gone over.
just wanted to mention that.
Everybody, thank you for watching. I have a lot of.
Yes,
This gave me a
totally.
lot of ideas on like optimizing some things in my signal chain. So
Yes.
yeah, thanks. Appreciate
All right. Well, let me get all tiny over here, and I can play this out if you want.
it. Also, fun fact:
All
I don't
right.
have any chairs in this room, so I'm just like on my knees.
Before we start playing,
I thought you were.
one of the reasons I got this is Noise Engineering does a lot of supporting conservation efforts. So they've done stuff for the pangolins, for bats. That's one reason I really like supporting Noise Engineering, because they they have those. What am I trying to say? Just go
Causes.
support
It's
noise
for a good
engineering.
cause,
Yeah.
and they're just like good folks. It seems like they put out a lot of free stuff, probably more than they should. And they do things like the new not the Versio, the new, is it
Legio?
what's the new series, Legio or something?
Legio,
Yeah,
I think.
the new
Yeah.
Legio series, we can swap firmware. So like that probably, I don't know if that hurts sales or not, but it prevents them from like I don't have to buy three different modules. It's pretty cool.
So
Yeah, no,
fantastic people over there.
Yeah.
They're great. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's do
Alrighty.
this. Play us out.
Yes. All right. I'll
Yes,
play
that
us
Again,
out.
Isaac. Wait, hold on. Check your restream setting. It's like the gear icon, and make sure like the
Oh yeah. Let's
whatever
make sure
it is,
stereo is enabled.
the echo cancellation and noise and all that stuff.
Those are off. Stereo is on. Should I turn on high
Okay,
resolution
cool.
audio? Maybe that.
If you
try that.
want. It's cool. I think the audio
We'll see.
clipping was from OBS choking, not from your bandwidth.
Ah, okay. All right. Well, I'll play this out. I'm gonna unpatch my voice.
All right, thanks everybody. Have a good week.